Unhealthy ego. I think I'll title this one Meal Ticket. Unhealthy ego happens to the best of us, not only when we're unhealed or have yet to begin our spiritual walk, our spiritual path, but also after we have already ascended and made major progress on our spiritual walk. An unhealthy ego can remind us and show us how far we've come, and yet how much work we still have yet to do. We know this because the journey in walking our divine path and our healing journey never ends. There's always something to learn and to be reminded of. Several hours ago, I stood in a line that provided meals for the homeless. And every Tuesday, this line um, knows that you have to collect a particular ticket in order to have admission into the kitchen to be able to have a seat at the table and serve the meal. I, did some work, got some work done, decided to go over, I think, an hour early before it actually began. And even that wasn't early enough because there was already a group of people that had formed and a line that had formed. When I got there an hour early, the facility had already passed out the tickets, but not all of them, but most of them. There were still some tickets left. They usually pass them out. They'll go back inside. More people will come up. They'll come out at a later time before they officially open the doors. They'll pass out the rest of the tickets. I happened to get there after the first wave of these tickets being passed out. Luckily, I was told that the person who passed the tickets out would be back again to pass out the remainder of the tickets. As I looked around and counted the amount of people that was there, I saw that it was only roughly 15 people, and normally the amount of tickets that passed out, I believe, is around 20 to 30. With that being said, of course, more people usually get there later and arrive later after the line has formed and after the tickets have already been passed out. One guy who I see around in the neighborhood quite often um, came up and asked if the tickets had been passed out. And I responded, not all of them. They're still coming out to pass out the rest. He said, okay, good. And I seen him when he was actually walking up the street from a distance. And again, when he arrived, he stood next to me and asked if all the tickets had been passed out. And I explained that they were still going to come out to pass out the remainder of these tickets, these meal tickets. Now, I was grateful, as I'm grateful for any services that I am able to receive. It wasn't like I was starving or anything of that nature. I was grateful to have brunch this morning, today being Taco Tuesday. But when you live on the street and you're homeless, you learn to take advantages of whatever available services that's provided in order for you to be able to maintain and get through your day and your week. And it seemingly is a pattern that most homeless people practice, taking advantage of the resources that is available. Why not? You never know what you'll run into and whether or not scarcity will become a thing, but you don't want to live your life regulated fear of scarcity. especially if you're abundant in an abundant mindset. Be that as it may, when the second round of the tickets uh, began to get passed out, the lady came to the door, and opposed to, coming fully out of the door, she stood a little bit behind the door and had the tickets in her hand, and she began to pass them out like sporadically, and people was reaching. People who came after the fact, who didn't get in line behind the people who reached before them, began grabbing tickets. And that's usually an issue amongst homeless. You'll always find people who will cut the line and feel entitled to cut the line, no matter if people had been there hours before. Some people even spend nights at these particular facilities waiting for a good meal, depending on how the night before or the day before went, whatever their circumstances are. And you'll still have people who are entitled and bullyish. They'll come up and they'll just cut the line in front of everybody who already stood in line, as they were supposed to and asked to do. And then what happens next is you'll have people going into a frantic trying to get themselves a ticket as the tickets begin to run out, because usually what normal people do is they say, who is next? Where's the line? I need a line. Who was here first? They'll ensure that they don't just hand them out like Wild Bill, and those who uh, didn't deserve because they wasn't there, and those who was there actually. And there's a method to that, by the way. There's a reason for that, but we won't get into that now. But usually they'll ask, who's next? Where's the line? And then you was here next. You was here next. Here you go. Here you go. That's how it's usually done. But they would just hand it out to whoever reached, whoever reached, whoever reached, whoever reached. The guy who had walked up after I did, the guy who had asked me if all the tickets were passed out, the guy who I saw in a distance walking up to approach the line, had reached after I had grabbed what appeared to be the last meal ticket. He reached and he grabbed it at the same time, or slightly after, and he had the nerve to try to pull it out my hand. Something snapped. I'm thinking to myself, is he making a mistake, or is he doing this on purpose? But he wouldn't let it go. He continued to pull, and I'm like, yo, I got this in my hand. And the thing about it was, he was pulling it, wasn't even looking in my direction as he was pulling it, which made it odd. It made it even more strange, because if you had reached to grab a ticket like any normal human being or person would, you would know that you received it, it's in your hand, the person handed it to you. He grabbed it in my hand and was pulling while looking in a completely opposite, different direction, and pulling it with force while looking somewhere else. I'm trying to get his attention and saying, hey. Now, mind you, the ticket is already out of the lady's hand. It's out of the door. It's no longer at its origin, and it's outside in my hand, and he's looking in a different direction, pulling the ticket, or attempting to pull it out of my hand. I felt how strong he is. Pretty strong. Pretty strong. Should have been able to pull it out of my hand. But I guess my own strength fools me as well. And he kept pulling, and I pulled, and he pulled, and I pulled, and I'm trying to get his attention because there's a group of people, and I'm saying, hey, I got the ticket. He looked at me, finally turned his head and said, oh no, I got the ticket. I grabbed it. And then he says something that let me know what I knew I should have been prepared for. Understood that it's a possibility, but was sprung on me in the strangest of way, but I guess the only way that it could have. The preparation of the individual that befriends you, that pretend to be cordial and friendly, and then try to betray you and spark emotions in order to harvest energy. And when that reality hit, oh, first let me tell you what he said. He said, because this was the good one, this is how I was supposed to set it up. He said, I was here before you. The guy that I saw walking up in the distance who stood in line and had asked and inquired, have they passed out all the tickets yet? I was like, nah, they're going to come back out and pass out the rest of the tickets. He's like, oh, okay, good, good. He said, man, how early you need to be here? This is what he said. This is what this clown and this idiot said when he first walked up. Man, how early do you need to get here? And everybody was telling him, man, 2 o'clock. He was like, 2. He was like 2:30, 3. He was like, man, what you need to do? Spend the night? This is his dialogue. This is what came out of his mouth. Now, for him to say in that moment after he's trying to pull it out of my hand, not even looking in my direction, I was here before you. I'm just like, are you serious, man? You joking right now? Right? And he was like, nah, you came after I did. And it appeared like he was serious. And simultaneously, he is trying to snitch on me, tell on me as if I'm trying to take the ticket from him. He's trying to get the security guard's attention. So now I'm trying to get the security guard's attention. And when we get the security guard's attention, he was like, man, just let the ticket go. Now, under normal circumstances, when I realized what was going on, I should have yielded. Should have said, man, you know what? You got that. I wasn't starving. Like I said, I had already ate brunch. So it wasn't a gluttony thing. It wasn't a thing of, I just got to have more food. It wasn't that. And I confirmed it later because normally when I make mistakes and I go through my ups and my downs, the first thing I do is consort and approach my spirit team and guides and converse with them. Every time, all the time. Every time, all the time. And the lady who had passed the tickets out sporadically opposed to saying who's next, all of a sudden, it was a thing. It was like, oh, don't do that to the poor ticket. Hand it here. Nobody will get the ticket. And so now after that, the guy proceeds lying, saying that he was before me. I was trying to take the ticket from him and this, that, and the third. In that moment, I said, I realize and recognize and I know what's going on here. This is the tactics they use. I turned around, looked over my shoulder, and sure enough, it was a member of the LGBTQ community, a gay guy standing behind me, pointing the phone, had it up to his chest, abnormal positioning, recording the whole situation. And he wasn't the only one. It was a few others. So when I say, yeah, and then you got this weirdo recording me to his face because he was right directly over my shoulder. He started going into the whole acting and pretending like all of these flying monkeys in this criminal hate group do. Oh, I'm not recording you, this, that, and the third. But this idiot, unlike the others, had his phone a little bit slightly down, and I looked over and I saw that he had a group chat where he was recording into Facebook. So many things to process in that moment. And I realized that it was orchestrated. It was a setup. They did exactly what they were supposed to do, wanted to do, right? And he was going through this whole acting, the guy who grabbed the ticket, trying to explain his case, why he was before me, even though he walked up after me. Still lying, still trying to make his lie believable. I mean, literally buying into the whole notion, buying into the whole story, trying to make his lie believable. And the truth of the matter is, it was a lie. From the beginning to the middle to the end, it was a lie. But he was telling it with so much passion. He was telling it with so much believability, like narcissistic sociopaths do. He was telling it with so much force. He was trying to force a fantasy, a lie, a fallacy, a fake narrative to be the truth, to be reality. And it just wasn't. But he was saying it with so much passion and fervor as if he believed that he was telling the truth. And so many things I began to process in that moment simultaneously on how the situation in of itself was arranged and orchestrated, on how I fell for the okey doke and how I myself should have just backed up and released the ticket and say, you got it, on how the dude over my shoulder was recording and lying and saying he wasn't. And yet I looked over and saw a group chat thing going on where it was being uploaded to. And then the situation with them saying, well, nobody will get the ticket. And then even before the guy left, he was trying to plead his case on a side with the security. Again, lying some more, trying to make the lie believable. And as I heard him lying again, I said, man, Mr. Security, just look at the camera right there. You'll see he's lying and that I was here. And they know because they have these one-sided mirror glass windows, and they stand behind there and they watch and they see you. So that's part of the thing I said earlier, more to the story. But and the reason why they handed it out the way they did. But and also tying in to be a targeted individual and certain people aware and participating in the community, et cetera, et cetera. I could go further into it, but I want to keep the message simple. As he's lying, I say, check the camera. You know, the guy, I say, mental health is a serious thing. It's either one or two things. It was orchestrated and intentionally arranged, which I say, yes, I agree. Or mental health is a serious thing. Mental instability is a serious thing. Because if he really believed it, which I don't believe that he believed, because I know he don't believe that. But if he do, mental instability is a serious thing. Now, the first part is the truth. It was orchestrated. It was arranged. It was something that these devils, idiots, and clowns would do in order to create a false narrative and paint somebody in a false and negative light. However, even in that moment, I understood that I have to take responsibility for recognizing it too late or simultaneously, and yet allowing myself to get into this one-fisted tug of war, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth over a meal ticket. And once I realized that, I said, I got work to do. And I immediately knew it's unhealthy ego disguised as principle, disguised as, well, I'm a man and, you know, I'm who I am and I was in line and I know I was here and I know this clown, is BSing, but he trying to take it out of my hand. You know what I'm saying? I can't let him take it out of my hand, but why not? Let me give it to you. Since you want it that bad, it will eliminate the game that's being played in the environment. Which, guess what? Even saying this, 95% of the time I catch the bullshit and I yield and I curtail whatever's going on. So I still give myself credit. This was a moment that I didn't do it, but the majority of the time I do. So I still can acknowledge how far I've come. And what I battle on a daily basis. And, my batting average is pretty darn good, alleviating and dealing with these narcissistic flying monkeys and clowns and the cowards that recruit them and send them that hide behind the scenes. The individuals I spoke of in other videos, the millionaires with resources that's trying to hide behind and cover up the crimes they committed, not wanting to be exposed. So they send these flying monkeys out here to create false narratives and paint individuals in a bad light because they're cowards and they're behind the scenes. Those are usually the ones most likely that's driving by and hiding and stalking in vehicles and having somebody drive them by, or they themselves driving by in muscle cars. A lot of them clowns have these muscle cars, boom, and they, drive by. Because a lot of the energy harvesters are stalkers who hide in close proximity, believe it or not. When you're harvesting energy and you're sending distorted sex magic, a lot of these devils are hiding in close proximity, be it in a vehicle, be it in a neighboring apartment building, house, etc., an Uber. These devils is hiding in close proximity, these clowns. And so all of that was a mouthful and very interesting, and I'm grateful to be able to share it with you, because immediately afterwards, I stepped off to the side. And by the way, I still got a meal because they counted who was outside, who didn't get a ticket, who didn't get a chance to go inside. And then they still came outside. They was gracious and they passed out a meal to those who was outside. And even with that, there was people who wasn't counted who walked up after the fact and grabbed meals before the people who was actually counted. You see how that works? So one of the things I did is I stepped off on the side and I immediately consorted with and conversed with my spirit team, my beloved angels, my beloved ancestors, my ancient overseers, my guides. And I asked them, I said, spirit team, I could have handled that differently, better. Yes. And I want to know, is that tied to gluttony? Do I have work to do in the area of being gluttonous? No, is the answer. Is it unhealthy ego then, spirit team? Yes. But I already knew that. I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to get that balancement, that answer. And so for me, just as I already knew the answer, I also already knew the solution. In that moment, that unhealthy ego, I prevented myself from acting on and taking the solution. I ignored my discernment. I ignored my intuition in that moment, even though I can clearly state beyond a shadow of a doubt that I knew my discernment and intuition was telling me to yield. But I ignored it in that moment. So in that way, similar fashion to many of you who, I get on about ignoring, not using your discernment and your intuition, and I get on you about that. I similarly today, even though I knew the solution, did the same thing. I ignored it. And I wasn't expecting somebody to grab the same ticket at the same time. It's not something I always do, by the way. Ignore my, not use my discernment and ignore my intuition. Like I said, 95% of the time, I'm up to par and I'm on point. It was just in that moment. I would not have been able to navigate, stick and move, and, go go against an army of clowns and bullies and sellouts, narcissistic sociopath, if I just ignore my intuition and not use my discernment, right? But as a general rule, I do, majority of the time. But again, even if you've ascended and you reached a great level of progress and much spiritual growth and maturity, you can still have a relapse or forgetful moment or something to that effect, right? But you acknowledge it, as I did, immediately, deal with it. You don't run from it. You don't hide from it. You don't bury it. You don't cover it up. You don't stick your head in the sand. You don't get mad. You don't sit on the emotions. He did this and he snatched the ticket and damn it, I could have went and sat down and had it hide me. You don't do that. You don't linger. You just get to the root immediately. Tackle that root. What's the issue? What's the cause? What's the problem? What happened? What was my part? What could I have done differently? Get to that root immediately. Don't run, don't hide, don't stick your head in the sand, don't get mad. Don't let your emotions take over you for the remainder of the day. Now, you done wasted 8 hours before you went to sleep and you fell asleep angry and mad over something that you could have tackled immediately thereafter, knocked it out the way, and now you good. You back in the good headspace. You good? You good. Ask yourself, you good? You good. Worked it out? Worked it out. And I worked it out with my spirit team, nonetheless, who confirmed, yeah. Take a look at that. And I did. Having the willingness to take a look at it is the major step, is the first step, the first key. Acknowledging it, having the willingness, and then executing, following it through, right? With the assistance of your spirit team and your guides, getting that confirmation. Was it this or that? Was it gluttony or was it unhealthy ego? Was it arrogance or unhealthy pride? Was it, being aggravated and frustrated? Was it somebody else's energy? Whatever. Ask the questions you need to ask, but deal with the issue at hand. And it's between you and your guides. Even if it played out in public amongst other people, at the end of the day, it's between you and your spirit team. Because no matter what happens amongst other people and other people's opinion of you and appearances, it appeared, right? You was fighting over a meal ticket, and they can assume, oh, he was fighting over a meal ticket because he's starving. And matter of fact, you even heard people rumbling and saying, man, it's getting rough out here. Yeah, man, boy, phew, it getting rough out here, man. And yeah, that's why the mayor's sending people to hotels way out in the boondocks, and they keeping them, paying for the room for them to go out there, and they bringing them food so they don't have to worry about coming back over this side of town. And they want them away. So when the new people come in town, they trick them food about how beautiful the city is, and the homeless issue is they ain't no homeless people, and they can look around and say, ooh, wow, they on top of their home. They ain't no homeless here. Everybody got a house and an apartment. When that couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. That's $60 million that was allotted 2 summers ago, and they announced it on the news that was supposed to be strictly for the homeless. All of a sudden, as a homeless person, you go asking about these resources and they tell you you don't qualify because you don't have a drug addiction, or alcoholism, or a mental condition. And you were saying, what does that have to do with being homeless and taking advantage of the 62 million that they announced on the news and made a big deal about it? How come a homeless man don't qualify and can't get the assistance that they need if they not crazy and if they ain't taking drugs? But that's apparently what it need to be if you want the resources from, to be able to get a place to stay. But anyway, I wanted to bring that to you because, like anything else, it's important to share and to express these truths because truth is truth, even when it includes me. And I need to set the tone and show you real time examples on how you tackle and deal with your issues and get through them. Own up to it, confess up to it, man. If that's all it is, you had a spat over a meal ticket, man. You think I'm gonna sit around embarrassed, ashamed over a meal ticket when I already said I used to be a foodie? Love to eat, love to cook. Most of the people that knew me used to refer to me as a chef. Tell me they used to, they used to eat my like they 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 look like they just wanted to grab somebody to throw, backhand somebody, or make love. One of the three. Grab somebody by the throat, backhand them, and or make love whenever they taste my food. Now I don't know, but they used to refer to me as a chef. But yeah, I think that's a pretty cool story. I'm grateful for the experience, by the way, because it reminded me that yeah, I gotta stay sharp when dealing with these clowns. You can't even trust a clown to stand next to you. Be cordial, right? You gotta maintain your boundaries with these clowns, this criminal network and hate group. So I'm grateful. Now I'm gonna get back to being sharp.